I'm Eddie Hilditch. I'm a senior lead, and myself and my team have been working on the new colonialism outposts.
My name's Joel Azapati, and I'm senior environment artist too for the EU Sandbox team.
So after the initial concept is done and rounds of feedback have been iterated on, we move into pre-production. This phase allows us to spend some time testing the concepts for in-game viability. Translation from concept to game isn't always one-to-one, and during pre-production, we'll get rough versions of the concept meshes into game and spend time making sure that they'll work practically. The art direction can also change at this stage, so we use this phase to kind of explore creatively as well, and concept art is a fantastic jumping-off point for sparking ideas.
One of the first steps when starting a new location is to start look development, a hyper-focused small section of the location where we can hone in the tools and methods needed to execute the concept in-game. Some things translate well, some things don't. It's important to figure all this out before going full steam ahead with the entire team. One of the great assets on the Sandbox team is we have a lot of people who are passionate about concept and design, which means when translating from concept to production environment, it's very easy to expand on the concept art. With the art styles of the Colonial Outpost, we decided to change up the way we typically author content. Our hard surface locations are meant to feel prefabricated, like there's a manufacturing plant out there on ArtCorp that churns out these flat pack space station kits, so stations can be mass produced. Colonial Outposts are more personal, more handcrafted by the people who live there, based on their needs, not wants. They're on the frontier world, so they can't always choose luxury over practicality. Materials were one of the first things we tackled, and we started off by developing the idea of how the inhabitants would have built these structures and what materials they would use. We wanted to show not only the age of the outpost, but also wanted to hint at all those different layers of the structure and give you an idea how, functionally, they constructed them.
One of the biggest challenges with the new outposts is how we introduce variation between each location the player will visit. Building each as a bespoke set of buildings is impossible, as we want hundreds, if not thousands, of outposts in the game eventually. The modular approach that we've developed really evolved out of our previous work on space station interiors, but with a few key improvements. This starts at the macro level, where on the planet's outposts are placed, how the local conditions affect your time there, then what kind of buildings an outpost has and how they're laid out, all the way down to the ability to independently swap out an underfloor layout in a single building of that outpost. We'll have various types of modules, from large standalone modules like warehouses or ore extractors, which have a singular function, all the way down to smaller room modules that can be connected together in different ways to form a complete headquarters building. After pre-production was finished, we had a list of the room module types that we wanted to tackle first. For the headquarters building, everything hinges around a hub module with different room modules that can be attached to extend the structure. The room modules will serve different functions in the base, with various gameplay systems linking one to another for an interconnected web of sandbox gameplay opportunities. As content creators for the Outpost, we needed a new system to build, edit, and manage the library of modules we're creating. Rastar is the tool we'll use to do this. It allows us to intuitively create a location template directly on the surface of the planet. Not only this, but headquarter buildings can be snapped together directly within the tool, or with an intuitive user interface. One of the other major innovations with the Planet Tech has been the ability to modify the terrain mesh and flatten areas of terrain. Previously, we were at the mercy of the terrain when it came to designing our buildings, which is why our outposts had to be built with stilts and placed in naturally flat areas of the planet. Now, we can build much more natural buildings with walls and entrances connected directly to the planet's surface. And also, we can place these buildings in a much wider range of locations. We believe our new outposts inject a refreshing new location experience into Star Citizen. They're organic, warm, personal spaces that really convey the age and history of humanity's expansion into the verse. The new art style, the focus from design on gameplay, and the flexible modular approach to their construction will allow us as developers and you as players be part of creating a wider variety of rich and satisfying experiences for every outpost the player comes across.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Joel. That was awesome. And moving on, we're actually going to talk to Corey now, who is going to give us kind of a deep dive into the creation of the artifact, which was actually kind of our first little glimpse of the Hadesian culture from Hades system.
Thanks, guys. I'm Corey Bamford, lead props artist at Imperium Games. I'm here today specifically to talk about the Hadesian artifact that you'll see in the walkthrough. So we knew early on we wanted some sort of MacGuffin for the walkthrough. We originally had a few ideas of what that could be. Originally, it was either going to be a tablet fragment, a sculpture, or a Hadesian artifact. So initially, the concept team explored a variety of ideas We used a lot of reference for existing alien artifacts in the game, as well as reference from the real world. You know, lots of tomes and ancient kind of Egyptian stuff as well, just all sorts of really reference just to get a general idea. We knew we wanted to integrate some form of ancient power or technology into the asset. We also knew we wanted it to have some sort of symbolism and text. So once the concept team iterated further on these ideas, they then presented those back to Chris, and we narrowed down the selection of assets until we had a candidate that everyone was happy with. So once we had this asset in mind, it then came down to turning that from a concept into a production asset, and that's where the props team comes in. When a prop artist gets a concept like this, immediately the wheels in their head start turning, and they're trying to figure out the best way to implement it in our game engine. They need to find solutions within the engine to achieve the visual target of the concept. Obviously, it's not as simple as just taking the concept and replicating it. We have to think about the shaders, we have to think about performance. Our job really is to find a solution within the game engine to achieve the visual target of the concept. Once we've figured out a strategy for achieving the look, we begin to actually make the content. So for the artifact, for example, we knew that it needed to be split into 3 segments and they needed to fit together. The first thing we do is get a placeholder into the game for the design team to actually implement as an entity. We also then figure out how the scale actually works in the player's hand and when they inspect it. For the artifact, there was a bit of back and forth between the size because we wanted to get a balance between it having prominence and also being easily carryable. After we figured out the size of the asset, we then need to actually break down how we're going to make it. So the first thing we really get into is the materials. We know that this asset is made of a few different materials. Firstly, we have the stone with the complicated glowing pattern. We also have these large copper structures and some smaller, thinner metal structures as well. For this asset, we knew we'd need to use unique textures just because of the amount of detail we wanted to achieve. One of the biggest challenges we had was making sure that the stone looked really good. To create the stone, we started with some scan data of rocks and concrete, as well as some mesh data like curvature. We also use a lot of procedural noises from Substance Designer just to add some variety. Using the height map as a jumping off point for the rest of the texture maps is quite a nice logical and physicalized way of doing things. It took quite a lot of iteration to get the final look. It was definitely a group effort. The glow was probably the trickiest part of this asset. We ended up actually using a shader some of you might remember from the Vandal Driller trailer. We created the iconography using a bespoke texture mask, and then the circles were derived from some cells within Substance Designer. We took these cells, quantized them, and then got the edges of that quantization to create rings. And then we used a procedural mask as well as some hand-painted textures to mask out that glow. Once we were happy with this texture, we multiplied that onto the height map, which is used to drive the glow threshold. The glow effect has 3 texture inputs that we need to create. There's an animated glow map, which is sort of used to drive the background effect of the glow. There's also a gradient, which colors that map. Finally, we have the actual pulse itself, which is the texture map that pulses across the asset. Next up is the bronze. This was actually pretty straightforward to achieve. We didn't need any fancy shader effects for this one, just a standard set of unique textures. We wanted to get lots of nice scratches and aging on the bronze. And in the concept, there was also this nice effect on the edges where the metal got darker. So we wanted to add that in as well, just to give it a more distinctive feel. Once we were happy with the visual look of the asset and engine, it then was just a case of wrapping it up. We needed to create LOD meshes for the object, as well as collision proxies. As you can tell, quite a lot of work goes into these hero assets. So that was a little bit of exploration into how we created the Hadesian artifact for the walkthrough. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me talk about it, and enjoy the rest of the show.
So we wanted to thank you for your time. We wanted to introduce Pyro and show all the hard work that all the team's been working on and working towards. The team has put in a lot of hard work in building the Pyro system, building the AI, building the planets, the worlds that you'll go and explore. So Pyro will be ready when server meshing is, and it will be coming out with Star Citizen Alpha 4.0. So on behalf of myself, I want to thank Dave and Ian and yourselves for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the panel, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of Digital Citizen Con. See you in the verse.
Credits burning a hole in your pocket? Didn't think so. Something tells me, though, you got a pile of junk in that hangar of yours. Turn that crap into scrap at Dumpers Depot. Old Zeke always pays top cred for all your used gear at any of my verse famous franchise locations. From Art Corp to Crusader. Stop on by and tell them Zeke sent you. From thrusters to mining lasers, power plants to shield generators, we got your back. Dumpers Depot, because everything is valuable to someone. Dumpers Depot LLC is not responsible for inaccurate appraisals. Commercial service and delivery fees will apply.
Space is cold and unforgiving. Only the toughest survive here. But even the toughest outlaw has a sensitive side. He doesn't have to show it to everyone. Because with your very own Moby Horizon, you have peace, freedom, relaxation and your very private emotional retreat always with you. Welcome to your very own Moby Horizon. The use of Moby Horizon can be addictive. If in doubt, consult a licensed physician.
A distress beacon is triggered, and a quick reactionary force from the lead expeditionary is mobilized.
Roger, boss. Albatross flight, prepare for drop. 1 minute out.
Loadmaster copies. Dropping the ramp.
Utilizing state-of-the-art technology, highly trained professionals arrive within moments.
Albatross flight, 30 seconds.
Every team, power up.
Rolling on 3.
Prepared to deliver justice in even the most remote reaches of the verse.
Execute, execute, execute.
Every team is rolling. Last man, every team down and safe.
Roger, last man. Albatross breaking off.
Elite expeditionaries got your back.
Here at Kelto, we have one simple goal: to bring you the items you need quickly and easily. We've got everything you need: food, drinks, toys for the little ones, guns for the wife, all inside one store, Kelto. Just walk inside to begin your astronomical savings. Using the latest in Moby technology and machine learning, we know exactly what you've picked up and have already charged you. Want something hot and ready to go? How about hot dogs, nachos, or burritos, Kelto? We've even got the latest in Gemini ballistic weapons, like the Gemini F-55 LMG, featuring an explosive rate of fire that tops over 1,000 rounds per minute. It's the best light machine gun you can get in a convenience store. Looking for something a bit smaller for the kids? We also carry the Gemini LH86 pistol, perfect for those small hands. So come down to Kelto today for quality products at low prices.
Come to Kelto. Come to Kelto. Hey, welcome to CitizenCon 2951, our yearly celebration of everything Star Citizen is, and showcase of what Star Citizen is on its way to become. As usual, I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. So, what is CitizenCon? When it started in 2013, it may have had its humble roots in Sandy just wanting some place to bring folks together and a solid excuse for Ben and Pete to watch the Wing Commander movie in a theater in Austin, Texas. But as with all things Star Citizen, it grew each year to become a full day of activities, most recently held in Manchester, England in 2019. Now, with a hiatus in 2020 due to the pandemic, and our desire to remain diligent and responsible in 2021, CitizenCon is back as something slightly different this year. Now, while it won't be the same without seeing all of you in person and worrying if your plastic bag helmet is safe or not, we hope this year's event brings with it a similar sense of community and interaction as our developers present to you their continuing efforts in bringing Star Citizen's future to the present. And let's talk about some of that future we just saw with a look we just took at the Pyro system. Now, I've always said it, and I'll continue to always say it, we get better with every one of these things we do, whether that's planets, spaceships, or anything else in between. And with the Pyro presentation, we got our first true look at some of the new planets and moons, the process of converting our existing space stations into new outlaw variants, taking those colonial outposts that we've been seeing before from concept to amazingly detailed reality, and perhaps most excitedly, planetary AI nav mesh in action with a 24-hour day-night cycle that will truly bring these worlds to life and provide that universe of gameplay possibilities seen in those multiple different ways you can go about achieving your objectives. And for those of you who were wondering, yes, that was really Pyro 3, that was a real outpost and a real mission. No sandworms here. That's what's coming to Star Citizen and a whole lot more. Now, because I'm the patron saint of bad ideas, let's take a look at some of the comments that came in on Twitch while we were all watching. This should be good. Engion says, using talent from across the globe, that's a good thing. I agree. Adderdoth says, this guy is talking like it's been made. DFX2KX says, they probably have the gameplay, but they want to force folks to stick around and watch the whole thing before they show it. Annoying, but typical for them. We are who we are. We showcase every part of the Star Citizen. Rolana says, someone needs to hand out some meds in chat. Underfern says, I wouldn't buy a melty dog from that man. I don't know if they're talking about Todd Pappy or Ian Leyland, but agreed. Lots of people said, 420 Space Weed, Vape Nation, damp, 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 dank. Gaming Fortis says, just remember, he's more scared of you than you are of him. That's the truth. And then everyone went on a claim spree for a while. James Cameron, yes, the real James Cameron, he does exist. And then finally, Shorty Max said, number 15, Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone's foot fungus, but as it turns out, that might be what you get. Wise words, always. You can always rely on the Twitch community. And speaking of community, you may have noticed a selection of community-created videos throughout the day, ranging from commercials to skits to a variety of things in between. Those are all here as part of an effort by our fantastic community team that started months ago to include as many of you in today's festivities as possible. And while we can't show every single one that was sent in, the team did expand their original idea of just 15 videos to a whopping 42 for today's show. So you're going to see a few more as the day progresses. Now, of course, CitizenCon wouldn't be CitizenCon without the swag. Check that out, huh? Yeah. And this year, we've got it coming in two shapes and sizes. First up is the digital goodies pack seen here, which comes with the newly minted Arden SL Balefire suit you may have seen recently on Inside Star Citizen with that slick Theta Geo helmet. It's got the matching Balefire combat knife because accessorizing is always important, and the classic CitizenCon 2951 trophy, which I'm still trying to convince Actor Feature Team to turn into a bludgeoning weapon. Just say Red 1 more time, people. Now, these will all be distributed Monday to all backers. So if you've been on the fence so far and decide to back the project today, you'll get it along with everybody else on Monday. Now, over in Meat Space, since we can't do the traditional swag bag that's included for attendees with their ticket, we're doing a swag box that you can purchase on the RSI store. For the collectors out there, it's got 3 brand new Star Citizen pins to add to the collection, as well as an individually numbered challenge coin that says there are many like it, but this one is yours. Now, both collector's items come in a neat box and bundled with stickers that you can place all over the place, like Steve Bender's desk. I know, because I did. Now, the swag bag made box is available now on the robertsspaceindustries.com website. And we've also got some contests and giveaways going throughout the day, starting with this Astro Gaming headset contest, where folks hosting their own CitizenCon watch parties have an opportunity to submit images on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag SCWatchParty to win a custom-painted Xenothreat headset seen here. Whether your party is at home or at work, or if you're Captain Richard in his car. And for those of you who don't do social media, we're also giving away some Tobii eye trackers on Spectrum today in a short story contest. So tell us about some incredible moments you've had in person with your fellow citizens and win a Tobii eye tracker. Check that out on Spectrum for your chance to win. And no, I don't have one of those to show you because, as somebody said, I don't give things back. Now, let's talk about the day's activities. We just completed our Life in the Verse, or Life in Pyro presentation. Up next, we've got Ship Talk, where you'll learn about the latest and greatest in spacecraft coming to Star Citizen. Then we got Gen 12 and the multi-core Vulcan, where we'll take you through some of the new technologies that will unlock Star Citizen's ultimate performance potential. Crafting Worlds, which offers a brief look at some of the new tools that make up those wonderful pyro planets we just saw. Server meshing and the state of persistence, which will give you an inside look at the process of expanding Star Citizen out to the breadth and scope we all want it to reach. The Sounds of Space, which for my money is the sleeper presentation of the day. Don't miss out. It looks at the new tools that will unleash our sound designers from the constraints of yesterday's outdated processes. And then finally, Systemic Gameplay and the Stream of Thought, an entirely silent presentation where Tony beams his brainwaves directly into your skull through the TV, provided, of course, you have your SGS brainwave amplitude receiver. You all have your SGS brainwave amplitude receiver, don't you? We'll figure it out later. Basically, it's a big, long day of Star Citizen presentations and infos. That Pyro presentation alone was like an entire season of ISC just crammed into a single day. Which makes me think, can I take the rest of this quarter off? I can. I cannot. All right. Well, if you end up missing any part of the show or just want to watch it again, each presentation will be going up on YouTube later today in glorious 4K. But fair warning, do not look directly into Todd Pappy's eyes in 4K. Or Corey Bamford's. They're mesmerizing. And that about does it for the housekeeping. It's time to throw it to our next presentation of the day, Ship Talk with Paul Jones, John Crew, and Ben Curtis, where they'll be discussing a ship you know, a ship you don't know, and a ship you weren't supposed to know, but you ended up did knowing. It's not invisible any longer. Here's Ship Talk.
Through unforgiving lands, across the impossible expanse, a mirage calls, a distant oasis. We chase what most consider myth, pursue an obsession. That's what pushes us to greatness. The Oasis. It's real. The 400i by Origin Jumpworks.
Oh, that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So we made the 404
yeah,
in the end.
It was a ruse all along. It was a real ship. So,
Look cool though. I like it.
Those trailers are always super cool to see the artwork from both your teams.
Really good job of kind of showing off what I think everyone's kind of done.
Yeah.
Right. So we should probably get on with the show. This is Ship Talk, where we are going to talk about a variety of things today. My name's John Crew. I'm the Vehicle Director here at CIG.
I'm Ben Curtis, and I'm the Vehicle Art Director at CIG.
And I'm Paul Jones, Art Director.
So the 400i, it's a Constellation competitor. And we've got a few of these ships in this category across the board. We have the Constellation, we have the Corsair, and now we have the 400i. And the 400i has a few interesting features that makes it a compelling choice over the others. So being an Origin ship, it's obviously very visually sleek and fast, but also it can carry cargo and a vehicle at the same time. Size-wise, there's obviously a big gap in the range. We have the 100 series at the start, it jumps up to the 300 series. Then there's the big jump to the 600 series, and then another jump to the 890. So finding a space for this was fairly easy size-wise.
I think it fills the gap quite nicely. So in terms of the process, normally what happens is we assign it to one concept artist, and we start the ball rolling. So it's really just a game of sort of exploration at this point. It's fast and loose. We always have a timeline for each concept, and so it's the pressure is always on. Basically, it doesn't matter how many ships we've done. There's always that pressure to get it done and hit the sort of key points. And so, at this point of exploration, it's really sort of loosey goosey in terms of figuring out ideas, looking at shapes, looking at silhouettes, and sort of not locking yourself into a line of thinking. It's basically, we'll look at different ships. So some will be more influenced by the 600i, some more by the 100i, and then we'll sort of do a mix and match. And so, like I said, sometimes you don't quite hit it on that sort of,
I think
like right at the beginning.
Yeah, when you've got like a well-established manufacturer, it's really beneficial because you kind of you have that to pull from, but you also don't want to get into the point where it's just a scaled down 600 or a scaled up. Do you know what I mean? You kind of like, you don't want them all just to look like they're the same ship, just slightly different variants.
Yeah.
So I think the 400 is, it certainly stands out within the lineup, but it's clearly an Origin ship.
And I think because we sort of follow the sort of car manufacturers, don't we, in terms of the brand. It's sort of expanding the brand. Sort of the brand also develops over time. So we have like a double.
Yeah.
Since the start of the project, Origin has sort of slightly changed its style a little bit. And then, like say, you don't want just a mini 600.
Yeah.
Even though there's a part of me that would just be like, right, let's do a mini 600.
I do really like the 600. Yeah, the 600.
And even at this point, I kept sort of coming back to one original sketch that had been done for what was it? I think it was 100i.
Yeah.
There was a little thumbnail. It's literally in my head. It's about that big, and the sketch is just teeny weeny. I was like, I kind of want a version like this. This looks kind of cool. And so basically, in the end, I just went in and kick-bashed some ideas together.
So this was before my time on the ship team, so it's quite interesting
really?
to learn a bit more about the process.
Yeah.
It's a great ship. It's my favourite one, Paul, in that case.
A lot of the little concept thumbnails if you see one, because we often show them in Jump Point magazines afterwards, after a ship's being released, you see all the early sketches, and people probably noticed that 100i thumbnail that we did that was rejected for the 100, but then has come around for this, and you never know what might happen with ones that we didn't choose for this one.
Yes,
could happen
they
in the future.
might appear in future ships. So ultimately, this is what this is like a visual that I did. So it's it's throwing together a bunch of shapes, what we call kit bashing from different models, because it's quick. As an art director, you've always got, it feels like you've got zero time to get a result. So it's how do you get provide a visual that people can understand in the shortest time possible. And so my understanding of the ship was it was a luxury explorer.
Yeah.
And so you can see here that that's why there's a swimming pool in there and a deck. You know, the part of the process is that we show it to Chris Roberts to get sort of direction and feedback.
And Chris was quite adamant that this was going to be, you know, an explorer. It wasn't just a small scale party ship. It was, you know, it needed to have a function. It needed to be a competitor to that scale and kind of role of ship.
Yeah.
You know, we did quite a lot of interior investigations and you know, just sort of looking at ways of arranging space within that ship, because like we said earlier, even though the ship looks big, it's actually really tight. It's a lot harder than you think to achieve everything that now Star Citizens expect to have in their ships, and all the components and all the functionality.
A very streamlined sort of 2 decks, or really like 1 deck that stretches most of the lower section and the upper bit, which had the pool in it.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you'll get.
Maybe we get the pool.
You'll get your pool one day.
So in terms of this process, what happens is we finish the concept, or what we think is finished, and then get Chris sign off, do a couple of paint schemes, and then it passes over to your department.
Yeah. So from the concept, normally, you know, we'll kind of take it as quickly as possible into the editor, and that just allows us to kind of really get a good sense of the space from the player, and making sure that you know, everything that we think we need is actually going to fit, making sure the components go through. And like we were saying earlier, a lot of the time is what a ship starts off with its kind of paper design, you know, its official design document, to the point where we're actually kind of working on the ship. The requirements can change. That might, you know, that's not just because, you know, we're like, oh, we'll add this and add that to it. It's sometimes, you know, a balance pass has been done in the game, and we've realised that, you know, a certain ship item, you know, a certain size shield might not be suitable for it anymore, or it might be just that, yeah, we think, well, actually, it'd be great if we could fit the X1 in it, because it's kind of the perfect ship for it. But that wasn't, like I say, on the original plans. So yeah, I mean, like you were saying, the ship is kind of a hard split with its 2 floors. So we've kept sort of all of engineering and cargo and storage and everything downstairs still, and then the kind of the habs and the crew space is all upstairs with the bridge, obviously. Once we kind of get that white box in game, we then start just making sure that we can fit everything in we need. We also, that's the point that we kind of really start internally showing that ship to everyone that is invested in it, and you know, including Chris and you know, everyone that needs to kind of have a say. And one of the kind of things that Chris was really keen for, although he didn't want this ship to be a kind of luxury party ship, he did want it to feel Origin. I think originally we had like the lift entrance.
There was a smaller, trying not to do hand movements too much.
Yeah.
There was just a single small platform just for the crew that went straight up into.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole area was quite tricky, wasn't it? Because there was the docking ring, the docking collar, the lift.
Yeah.
And then there was an entrance to the front and an entrance to the
back. Originally, I think on the concept, you walked in through the docking collar, and like you say, the floor was a lift. You had the collar on the side, and then doors either side, which took you to like a little antechamber that had the suit lockers in, I think it was.
At the front,
and the first bit of feedback from Chris was the entrance doesn't really feel very grand for an Origin ship, and that's when we kind of introduced the stairs and the kind of like the big, not marble staircase, but that sort of idea that you were kind of like, you know, walking into the ship felt a little bit more grand. That had some knock-ons to the kind of interior space as well, because, you know, obviously making a 1-person or 2-person lift is something that's relatively small. It fits in a nice tight space, but when you've got a set of stairs that need to fit or need to have a decent height change, that requires a lot more space. So what we ended up doing was kind of opening up this first chamber you walk into, and rather than being divided into separate rooms, that kind of whole space kind of acts as the airlock, and that's got everything that you need when you first enter the ship. And I think it does, like I say, just that initial entrance feels quite nice now.
We don't have a lot of ships like that anymore that have the go up the front of it inside it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got another one that we'll show after this.
But yeah, most of them, if they've got a ramp, it's like cargo, isn't it? It's pure function and not really.
No, I think you guys done a great job on this because it was tricky. You know, I remember it at the time, and you feel the time pressure.
And then it was when I was just starting on the team as well, so I was like coming in and be like, oh, Paul, what do we do? Like, where do we go?
But it also, I mean, it's also nice because it sort of dovetails with that original sketch, which there's an element there in that thumbnail.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, and I think at the time I sort of binned it off because it was just like, I'm sure I had some thoughts about it. I mean, everybody knows I've got a sort of 64 kilobit memory, so stuff kind of like gets lost after a short amount of time. But I think we did discuss it, but then it was just like, no, let's go simple. But yeah, you guys did good stuff.
Yeah, and then the next thing to tackle, like Paul was saying, was the kind of like the addition of the bike garage. It was a bit of a headache trying to kind of fit that in, and the original plan that you can see is originally we were going to have it at the back of the ship next to the cargo, or within
the back of the cargo.
Yeah, within the cargo room. It did fit, but it kind of brought up a few quirks with it. I think there was a few different quirks from different departments. So from a design point of view, I think we could only make it fit if you sent the bike up on its own, which was fine. But because the main entrance to the ship was at the front, it meant that you'd get off.
Yeah, to drive your bike onto this platform, get off your bike, send the bike up, run around to the front of the ship, run up the stairs.
Yeah, and the
and
stairs
then just look at your bike.
Opening isn't exactly like a super quick thing. So if you, it just felt kind of like
in terms of flow.
Yeah, it's like, all right, I need to quickly get off planet, and you're like, oh, right, okay, yeah, send that up. Oh, run, yep, okay, go. A minute later or 2 minutes later, you're in the seat, ready to fly. Like I say, that was one of the issues we kind of hit, and then the other, I guess, issue was it started eating into the cargo space, so it meant that you couldn't, once you had the cargo fully loaded, there was very little space for you to kind of traverse around the cargo hold. Basically, we had a number of kind of ideas we played with, and then if you click on, we ended up basically putting it at the opposite end of the ship. Now the nose, should we call it the nose? Yeah, the nose now opens up, and it's got like a nice little kind of dedicated X1 garage in there. It's a nice use of that kind of spine that was there originally.
There was nothing really.
The gravity drive was there, but we kind of nudged that back a bit. And I guess the mounts for the guns, but they kind of still tucked out to the side a little bit. So
there's a better use of space because it was like you say, it had the gravity generator there, and it had the suit lockers, but it was weird that you had to go through the airlock to get your suit and then back out. So taking up that space was much nicer. And the other really good thing is all the controls for getting a new ship and doing this, they're all right next to you. So you go, open this, and put your bike away, and go up.
And I think that's one of the kind of like the nice things of it is you can, I guess, ride up to your ship, and it's just there. You send it up straight up, and there's no messing around. So that was one of the other challenges. And then, to be honest, most of the rest of the ship kind of went pretty much to plan in terms of what was on concept. I don't think there was any kind of real surprises. So now as you enter the ship and you come into the kind of like the main body, you're into engineering. This ship does have large shields.
Yes. Yeah. So that was another thing to make it different. Obviously, we've made changes during development to other ships, and shields have changed. So it's not quite as unique as it was, but it's still very well shielded for its size. And the other cool thing about engineering is those rooms at the edge are cool. They're climate controlled, so it's another nice little thing to play with. Gives all the teams something
we're gonna have
extra.
Full dry ice and everything.
Full dry ice, you can get the
come in and
the light sticks out and
flow out.
A little bit of party mode in there, But I think that's it. That was one of the things I think you established early on in the concept was this kind of like cool chamber in engineering.
Yeah, because we needed that space. I mean, you need space to put all the components somewhere, and just thought, let's just turn it into a feature.
Yeah.
So
and it kind of fits with the Origin kind of family as well, I think.
That's good.
And then kind of from engineering, you kind of go straight to the back, and that's where you've got your storage. I don't know if you know the SDU size offhand, but
not off the top of my head now.
No,
should probably put that in the notes.
Correct. Sorry. So you can fit a decent amount of storage in there. You've also got the escape pods. one of the other things we were doing when we were looking at this space with the bike is originally we were kind of, if we put the bike in this area, it meant that the storage reduced. So we were looking at kind of other ways of moving the storage around. At one point we thought, oh, we could put it out in the wings, but then that didn't really make sense because, you know, ideally in the wings where you store your fuel and that sort of stuff, and it just felt really awkward. Whereas this kind of gives us the kind of classic traditional
big block of cargo.
Yeah, big block of
You
cargo.
can have the vehicle, can't you?
Yes, yeah.
You can fit a Cyclone in there.
Yes.
Other smallish vehicles.
Yeah.
Obviously, it will take away
your cargo space.
So it's not. You can do it.
But you won't have any cargo.
But you won't have any cargo. So
yeah.
Okay.
And then we kind of make our way upstairs. 3-man, 3-crew bridge.
Yep, 3-crew bridge.
And it's you know, it's very, to me anyway, the bridge is very Origin. It feels you know, very, very sleek. Get a real nice view of the kind of front of the ship out in front of you. It's a nice place, and it's got the classic kind of Origin kind of hardened, and you know, we haven't got any low-tech screens. It's all kind of projected and feels fancy. Yeah.
Does that mean you can see there's a lot of 600i influence, like from the original concept image that was done for the 600i?
Yeah.
So I was keen to get that sort of, it's almost like the black louvers.
Yeah.
And then get everything sort of.
To be honest, they were one of the things that we kind of kept referencing back during the production. Was like, let's just go back and have a look at the 600, because that's one of those kind of shapes that really sells Origin to me. And so I think it was good kind of keeping them.
And that, it was also, what's the Origin buggy called?
G12.
Thank you, yeah. So, again, we've got the louvers.
Yeah.
The 890 as well is like all the bigger Origin ships have this sort of arrangement of a single centre seat and 2 crew ones, whether they're at the front or at the back. They're all sort of that style. So it all plays together.
And then HABs-wise, you kind of got the captain suite and you've got the crew suite. And you know, within those, they've got their own kind of lockers, they've got their own kind of personal ship storage. I'm not sure if it's exact, but they're very similar in their kind of scale. But obviously, the captain gets the slightly more space, a little bit more kind of luxury, because you know he's the boss. So.
At one point, it was a 4-person ship, and then we reduced it down to 3. So we've got that extra space for the.
I'm learning loads of stuff I didn't have out today.
Lots of things changed during the concept. Like changing it from 4 to 3 might sound like a quick thing on paper, but then it's like you're losing a seat out the bridge somewhere.
It would have been
lockers.
Tough to fit an extra seat in that bridge though, because it would have you would have had to have kind of had them in 2 banks. So it would have been a bit just purely visual sort of. It feels a little bit nicer weighted if it's.
I mean, the whole ship has essentially a triangle.
Looks fast. Yeah.
Looks fast.
Yeah. And then as you kind of progress through to the rear of the ship, this is where, like I say, originally it was
party time.
Yeah, it was the party room. Yeah, we've kept some of the elements, I guess. Yeah, there's still a kitchen, a decent sized kitchen.
It's still a nice space, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like luxury. It's still that sort of luxury yacht.
You've got your wine fridge,
kind
so
of feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
you've got everything you need back there. You've got your food making facilities. You've got your breakout area, and then your big hollow table at the back.
Yeah, and that was sort of like the I guess like the operations area, and we tried to make that space feel like it was a little bit more focused with the hollow table than the sort of the breakfast bar that's just in front of it. And I think because we tried quite a few different ideas there as well. Actually, I remember at one point we had like a war table with seating and stuff, but that was a bit tight for kind of maneuverability, and also I think we ended up going with like the standing kind of hollow table rather than a seating one, because when you first kind of like look at it, it felt like an extension of the relaxation area rather than like a kind of planning, what we're going to do in our operation type area.